Hidden gem motorcycles that are stupidly underrated. Buy these now. Welcome back to the channel. Everyone's chasing loud, overpriced bikes with more attitude than performance. But what if I told you the real winners are cheaper, more reliable, and way more fun? These underrated motorcycles might outlast your ex and outshine your garage. Let's get into it. Number 12. Suzuki GS500. Looking for a bike that just gets the job done. No drama, no debt. The Suzuki GS500 has been quietly doing exactly that since the late 80s. It doesn't shout for attention, no flashy fairings, no digital wizardry, just a dead simple 487cc air-cooled parallel twin that'll outlive bikes 3 times the price. You can still find them dirt cheap because, well, nobody brags about owning one, and that's exactly why smart riders scoop them up. Sure, people call it a beginner bike, but don't mistake that for boring. With around 47 horsepower and a curb weight just under 400 pounds, the GS500 will cruise at 70 miles per hour all day and still sip fuel like a scooter. Think 50 to 70 miles per gallon. Parts are everywhere. Maintenance? It's the wrench in one hand, beer in the other kind of easy. Comfort? A neutral riding position and a seat that won't punish your spine on longer rides. Is it sexy? Not unless you squint, but that low profile means used ones often go for under $1,000. And typically range between $1,500 to $3,500 depending on mileage and condition. New GS500S aren't sold in the US anymore, but some overseas versions, like the GS500F with a fairing, still pop up for around $7,000 to $8,000 USD brand new, and that's before you turn it into a cafe racer, tracker, tourer, or whatever else your garage can dream up. This thing's a blank canvas. Bottom line, if you want a reliable workhorse that won't complain, won't nickel and dime you, and might actually teach you how to ride better, the GS500 is quietly waiting in the classifieds, while everyone else overpays for the flavor of the month. It's a steal, no frills, no flex, just ride. And coming up next, something even rarer. It's even more of a sleeper, lighter, quicker, and stitched together from the best of 3 worlds. German badge, Japanese engine, and a touch of Italian madness for flavor. You've probably never seen it, but once you know what it is, you'll start hunting. Number 11. MZ Scorpion. Ever heard of the MZ Scorpion? Probably not, and that's exactly why it's such a hidden gem. Built from 1994 to 2004 by East Germany's MZ, Motorradwerk Zukopau, the Scorpion is one of those rare bikes that quietly nailed everything performance, design, and practicality, yet still flew under the radar. It was a truly international collaboration. A Yamaha engine, British design input, and high-quality Italian components. No flashy marketing, no big ego, just solid engineering. At its core is a 660cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine, the same 5-valve thumper used in the Yamaha SZR 660, producing between 48 and 58 horsepower. Sure, it won't melt your face off, but here's the twist. The Scorpion weighs just 380 pounds dry. That gives it a power-to-weight ratio that makes 110 miles per hour feel effortless. Club racers loved it for its simplicity, reliability, and tuning potential. In fact, some serious builds have pushed it to 150% of the stock output. It was offered in 3 versions, Sport, Tour, and Traveler, and every single one punched well above its class. Stainless steel silencers, dual seats, factory panniers, some even had adjustable bars and pegs. The suspension, brakes, and wheels came from premium GKA components, giving the bike a sharp, confident ride that's an absolute blast in the corners. So why haven't you seen one on the road? Simple. No hype, no dealer push, and no glossy brochures. Just brilliant design from a forgotten factory. And that's why used prices are still hilariously low. Think $2,000 to $3,500. Auction listings show tour models going for $2,250 to $2,900. Travelers around $3,450, and clean 96 models showing up at $2,700. Even the rare Sport Cup can sometimes be found for just $4,000. And with that reliable Yamaha engine, parts are widely available, maintenance is easy, and reliability is rock solid. This isn't some quirky Euro oddball, it's a practical sleeper with genuine riding chops. The MZ Scorpion is what happens when engineers design a motorcycle without chasing trends, light, tough, and criminally overlooked. Even when a bike nails the essentials, there's still one small upgrade that makes a huge difference, especially if you're putting in serious miles on a budget-friendly ride. It won't boost horsepower or change your exhaust note, but when your throttle hand starts going numb an hour into the ride, this one cheap mod suddenly feels like the smartest money you've ever spent. Before we dive into that, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more unbeatable motorcycle deals you won't want to miss. Number 10. Yamaha YZF-600R Thundercat. The Yamaha Thundercat is one of those underrated gems that quietly nails everything: speed, comfort, reliability, yet somehow never gets the spotlight it deserves. Produced from 1995 to 2007, it was Yamaha's in-between machine, not as razor-sharp and aggressive as the R6, but far from a soft, beginner-friendly bike. Instead, it hit a smart, sweet balance, a well-rounded sport bike that just got lost in the noise. At its heart, the Thundercat features a 599cc inline-4 engine producing around 100 horsepower. That might not sound outrageous today, but it's more than enough to blast through twisties or overtake semis on the highway without even needing to downshift. It boasts a top speed just shy of 150 miles per hour, R6 level numbers, but without the punishing ergonomics. Weighing in at 417 pounds dry, the Thundercat finds a sweet spot. Light enough to flick into corners, yet stable enough for longer touring rides. And that's where it really shines. A big, cushy seat, relaxed handlebar positioning, and a generous 5-gallon fuel tank allow you to ride longer and more comfortably than most supersports. Add in adjustable suspension, and you've got a machine that's just as happy weaving through city traffic as it is eating up back roads or cruising down the interstate. So why did it disappear from the spotlight? Simple. Blame the R6. Lighter, racier machine stole all the attention, and the Thundercat quietly faded into the background. It never gained cult bike status, which is actually great news if you're shopping today. Used prices are almost laughable. You can find one for as little as $1,100, and even a clean, low-mileage example usually tops out around $3,700. Kelley Blue Book lists a clean 2005 model at $3,435 retail, with trade-ins going for around $2,340. Private sellers often ask between $2,000 and $3,500, and Reddit writers have scored solid running bikes for as low as $1,500. If you care more about riding than flexing, the Thundercat is a total sleeper, reliable, comfortable, and built with that classic Yamaha toughness. Parts are easy to find, the engine is smooth as silk, and it delivers joy on every ride. It might not turn heads at the bike meet, but it'll absolutely put a grin on your face every time you twist the throttle. But here's the thing. While the Thundercat quietly delivers comfort and speed for pennies, there's another bike out there that laughs in the face of comfort. It doesn't care about fairings, top speed, or Instagram likes. It's taller, tougher, and built like a cockroach in an apocalypse. Some say the Thundercat can last you a decade, but this next machine, it might just outlast you. If you think the Thundercat is impressive, just wait until you see what's coming up next. Number 9. Honda XR650L. You've probably walked right past one without even noticing, and that's a shame, because the XR650L is a tank disguised as a trail bike. This thing hasn't changed since 1993. Literally, same 644cc air-cooled thumper, same steel frame, same no-frills, no-nonsense design, no screens, no ride modes, no gimmicks, and that's the beauty of it. Doesn't need updates because it just works. This thing is a cockroach with handlebars. It's been flogged through deserts, bounced off rocks, dropped in rivers, and it just keeps coming back. Whether you're trail riding, commuting, or blasting through the backcountry, the XR650L doesn't care. It just shows up. Every single time. So why is it overlooked? Simple. It's tall. That 37-inch seat height scares off shorter riders. It's heavy by today's dual sport standards, and it has zero flash no-decar graphics, no aggressive fairings. Just a red tank, a big round headlight, and a stance like it's ready to body slam a mountain. It's not here to impress, it's here to outlast. While modern adventure bikes keep getting bigger, flashier, and more expensive, the XR stays brutally simple and brutally reliable. Parts are everywhere. Maintenance is basic. Electronics? Almost none. This isn't a Swiss Army knife, it's a sledgehammer. And the price? Brand new, it'll run you about $7,600 out the door. But used? You'll find clean examples from $3,500 to $6,000. Dealer bikes tend to sit around $5,999, while private sales can dip as low as $3,500. That's nearly half of MSRP for a bike that could outlive your truck. If you want a dual sport that won't baby you, won't betray you, and definitely won't leave you stranded, the XR650L is it. Not pretty, not trendy, just damn near unkillable. That glowing red thing on your screen? Yeah, that's the subscribe button. Smash it if you want more no-nonsense bikes that eat miles and laugh at breakdowns. But what if you don't want to survive the desert? What if you want to own the city streets instead? Well, there's a bike for that too. One that trades dirt for charm, survival for style. And somehow, you can get it for the price of a used iPhone. It won't outrun anything. It won't outlast everything. But it might just turn more heads than any other bike on this list. Number 8. Royal Enfield Hunter 350. Ever come across a bike that just gets it right, not by being loud, flashy, or tech-loaded, but by keeping things refreshingly simple? That's the Royal Enfield Hunter 350. It doesn't scream for attention, and that's exactly why it works. No overhyped marketing campaigns, no over-engineered gimmicks, just a straightforward, charming machine that oozes personality, arguably more than half the bikes in its class. Starting at around $5,000, it comes in significantly cheaper than a Yamaha MT-03 or a KTM Duke 390, and still feels legit. Under the tank, you'll find a 349cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine, classic metal fenders, and that unmistakable retro-modern Royal Enfield style. In the US, it's still flying under the radar, no inflated dealer markups, no bidding wars, and a good chance you'll be the only one at bike night riding one. It's got all the right visual cues: a round headlight, teardrop fuel tank, ribbed seat, and a clean analog digital dash. And while it makes just around 20 horsepower, this isn't a race bike, it's built to cruise. Light, upright, and easygoing, perfect for weaving through city traffic or taking a relaxed weekend ride. Because it's simple, it's also incredibly easy to work on. No complicated ECU drama, no tangle of sensors, just a good old-school thumper that keeps maintenance low and your stress even lower. Pricing. New base models start at $3,999. Rebel colorways go for $4,199. Smart buyers are snapping up used 2023 models for as low as $2,900, with plenty of clean examples going for under $3,700. That's insane value for a bike with this much character. Of course, it's not perfect. The clutch can feel a bit stiff, the seat isn't exactly plush, and yeah, it vibrates. But honestly, that's part of its retro charm. Royal Enfield also offers a full lineup of bolt-on factory accessories, so customizing your Hunter won't burn a hole in your wallet. The Hunter 350 hits that sweet spot, cool, uncomplicated, and soulful. But maybe, just maybe, you're craving something a little bigger. Still vintage in style, but with 4 cylinders, butter-smooth power delivery, and an exhaust note so rich it could make your neighbor's VIN weep. And that's where the next bike comes in, the kind of machine that looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor in 1978, yet somehow, no one's scooping them up. Loving the Hunter 350? Hold on tight, the next one will blow you away. Number 7. The Kawasaki Zephyr 550. Dreaming of a vintage 4-cylinder that won't torch your bank account? Meet the Kawasaki Zephyr 550, one of the best hidden gems in the used Japanese market. This little sleeper debuted in the early 90s, right when everyone was chasing cutting-edge sport bikes. But Kawasaki? They said, screw it, let's bring the 70s back. What they built was a modern tribute to the legendary Z1. Round headlight, twin shocks, teardrop tank, all the retro style, none of the 70s headaches. Performance? It's not a rocket, but it doesn't need to be. You get around 50 horsepower from a silky smooth, air-cooled inline-4. Top speed hovers around 110 miles per hour, but the real star is the mid-range. That's where this bike truly comes alive, and where real-world riding actually happens. Maintenance? Bare-bones simple. No liquid cooling to leak, no ECU drama. Just a bulletproof analog motor that'll keep ticking as long as you keep the carbs clean and don't let it rot in the garage. Comfort? It's all there. Upright riding position, wide bars, low seat height, beginner-friendly, traffic-friendly, and most importantly, wallet-friendly. It's the kind of bike that disappears beneath you until you realize you've been smiling for miles. So, why isn't everyone talking about it? Because the bigger Zephyrs, the 750 and 1100 hog the spotlight, and bikes like the Suzuki Bandit 600 stole the budget bike crowd. The 550, it slipped through the cracks. And that's great news for buyers. You can still scoop up a clean Zephyr 550 for about $1,800 to $2,500 here in the States through private sellers. I even saw a Canadian ad at $2,000 and a UK listing around $2,500 USD. Even Aussie examples go for $3,000 to $3,700. It doesn't need to shout to get attention, and somehow that's what makes it special. Classic lines, reliable engineering, and a price tag that feels like a mistake. But what if we peeled off the polish? What if the next bike wasn't just retro, but raw? A machine that rattles, smokes, and makes 0 cents in 2025 and somehow still wins hearts? We're heading into dangerous territory now where simplicity meets insanity and legends live on in two-stroke clouds and garage whispers. Number 6. The Yezdi Roadking. Now here's a name that lights up the eyes of any old-school Indian rider, the Yezdi Roadking. But behind that nostalgic name is one of the coolest two-strokes you can still score for peanuts today. Built like a tank and louder than the 4th of July, the Roadking carved out a cult following over the years. It came with a 246cc two-stroke engine that delivered punchy, torquey power and a signature crackle from its dual exhausts. One of its most iconic quirks? The same lever served as both the kickstarter and the gear shifter, a bit of engineering oddity that speaks volumes about its unique charm. Now it's easy to see why some riders might overlook it. A smoky two-stroke with kickstart-only ignition and a funky shifter isn't exactly beginner-friendly. But that's precisely where smart money finds value. Low demand means low prices, and hidden gems for the right kind of rider. The Roadking didn't vanish because it was a bad bike. It faded into the background when India shifted its focus to fuel-efficient, low-maintenance four-strokes. But this beast remains bold, vintage, and unapologetically old-school, with a big fuel tank, a comfy sofa-style seat, and the kind of character you only get from a machine built by hands, not computers. You won't break any speed records, but you will earn smiles, thumbs-ups, and probably a few confused stares from younger riders wondering what in the world you're riding. And here's the best part. You can still snag a solid Roadking for next to nothing. Prices range from about $1,150 to $2,400 USD depending on the condition. Early 90s rider specials show up around the $1,150 mark, while meticulously restored models from Fanatics can reach closer to $2,400. It's one of the few vintage bikes where the price tag doesn't even come close to reflecting the character you get. The Roadking is a time capsule, loud, weird, and proud of it. A throwback to a time when motorcycles had soul baked into every bolt, and maintenance was just part of the lifestyle. But here's the twist. What happens when the underdog isn't vintage at all? What if the most slept-on bike isn't old school but brand new, with advanced tech, real performance, and killer looks yet still ignored, just because of the badge it wears? It's time to fast forward from smoky two-strokes to sharp fairings and TFT screens. If this bike caught your eye, you won't believe what's next on the list. Number 5, CFMoto 300 SS. Here's the truth. Most riders won't admit, if the CFMoto 300 SS had a Yamaha or Honda badge on the tank, it'd be flying off showroom floors. But because it's Chinese, most folks don't even give it a second glance, and that's exactly why it's dirt cheap and criminally underrated. Let's cut through the noise. CFMoto doesn't have the legacy of the Big Four, but they've come a long way. The 300 SS is no knockoff. It's tight, well-finished, and shockingly refined. Yet, because of old biases and lack of hype, its resale values stay low, making it an absolute steal for riders who care more about substance than status. At just $4,599 brand new, the 300 SS punches way above its price tag. You're getting a 292cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine, Bosch fuel injection, a slipper clutch, full LED lighting, Bluetooth connectivity, and a crisp 5-inch TFT display. That's tech typically found on bikes costing $2,000 more. Its race-inspired bodywork and sharp lines make it look like a baby Panigale just begging to be revved. Performance? Rock solid. You've got 29 horsepower, a top speed just under 90 miles per hour, and handling that feels planted and precise. It's fast enough for daily commutes, fun enough for weekend canyon runs, and friendly enough for track day newbies. So why isn't it everywhere? Two big reasons: brand snobbery and limited dealer networks. Parts availability, a bit trickier, press coverage, almost non-existent. It also carries the dreaded entry-level label, which scares off some veteran riders. But that's exactly why smart riders are snagging these for peanuts. Used models go for $2,270 to $2,990, and I even saw one go out the door for $3,200 with barely 100 miles on the clock. The CFMoto 300 SS proves you don't need a big badge to get a big ride, but maybe you don't care about TFT screens, full fairings, or even looking fast. Maybe you're hunting for something tougher, something that trades flashy tech for stone-cold reliability, a bike that doesn't just survive the ride, it endures every beating you throw at it. And the one we're about to hit next? It's built to outlast trends, outwork expectations, and maybe even outlast you. Number 4. BMW R1150 GS. Here's a bike that could ride through a war zone, shrug off the shrapnel, and still get you home before dinner, yet nobody seems to want it. The BMW R1150 GS is the original adventure beast, the motorcycle that defined the big ADV segment as we know it today, and somehow it's still flying under the radar, which is fantastic news for you. While everyone is chasing the latest R1250 GS with its spaceship dashboard and sky-high price tag, the R1150 GS sits quietly in the used market, offering 90% of the capability for about 30% of the cost. So, why is it so cheap? For one, it got overshadowed. The adventure model got all the glory, thanks to Long Way Round, but the standard R1150 GS? No film crew, no hype, just pure function. Second, most used examples have racked up serious mileage. We're talking 60,000 miles or more. That scares off casual buyers. But anyone familiar with BMW's air and oil-cooled boxer twins knows these engines are just getting broken in at that point. Yes, it's quirky, the gearbox is chunky, the telelever suspension takes some getting used to, and early models had that weird servo-assisted ABS. But if you're even mildly wrench-savvy, these issues are fixable, and that's what keeps prices low. This bike is not for beginners. At 249 kilograms wet and with a tall saddle, it's a big, tall machine. But if you're experienced, confident, and looking for a real-world touring weapon that doesn't care what road it's on, this bike delivers. The price? You can pick up a clean R1150 GS for between $3,500 and $5,500. I even spotted a 2004 adventure model listed at $4,000. Sure, some sellers dream big, asking $13,500, but realistically, a well-kept early bike with 60K to 80K miles runs you around $3,500 to $4,500. That's crazy value for something built to circle the globe. Verdict: the R1150 GS is the bulletproof workhorse everyone forgot about, a dirt-crusted legend with scars, stories, and still plenty of miles left in the tank. And now, we're entering sacred ground, the top 3. These aren't just underrated, they're criminally overlooked, starting with a Japanese inline 4 from the 70s that could have changed everything. If you're into this bike, just wait, the next one's even more exciting. Number 3. Suzuki GS 750. In the late 70s, while the world was busy bowing down to the Honda CB 750 and the Kawasaki Z1, Suzuki quietly released a motorcycle that arguably did everything better without the fanfare. That bike was the Suzuki GS 750. It didn't shout, it didn't pose, it just worked. And that's exactly why it's one of the most overlooked Japanese classics you can still pick up today without remortgaging your house. Launched in 1976, the GS 750 stepped into a market already dominated by icons. But instead of trying to shock the world, Suzuki focused on refinement. With a 748cc DOHC inline 4, the GS 750 delivered excellent balance and rock-solid reliability. It didn't reinvent the wheel, it perfected the formula. The problem? It lacked a marketing hook. It wasn't the first like the CB 750, it wasn't the fastest. It didn't win major races, and it never featured in cult movies. Even Suzuki seemed more focused on pushing the GS 1000 and later the GSX series. And so the GS 750 became the classic that history kind of skipped over, which is insane, because performance-wise, this thing punched way above its weight. You got around 70 horsepower, a surprisingly stiff frame for the era, great suspension, and a vibe that said, let's ride cross-country, more than, look at me. It was dependable, quietly competent, a classic bike that doesn't demand drama. And in today's nostalgia-heavy market, that means it stays affordable. Styling? Understated. No wild flake paint, no outrageous chrome, just clean lines, a proper universal Japanese motorcycle, UJM, silhouette, and a serious work ethic. That's probably why it doesn't draw collectors like moths to a flame, and that's your opportunity. Verdict: the GS 750 is a forgotten gem. It's the steady samurai, not the loudest or flashiest, but built with care, precision, and lasting power. And right now you can still find them in barns, sheds, and classifieds for a fraction of what a comparable CB750 or Z1 commands. Prices in the US range from $900 for a fixer-upper to about $3,500 for a fully restored classic. You'll find solid riders in the $2,000 to $3,500 sweet spot. One Reddit user even scored theirs for just $800, saying, "These bikes are like cockroaches, they'll survive a nuclear attack, no problem." But if the GS750 was the quiet warrior, what's next? Let's just say it's a triple-cylinder scream in a world full of inline fours, and it's ready to carve up every corner in its path. Before we dive into that, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more unbeatable motorcycle deals. Number 2, Triumph Daytona 675. Here's a middleweight sport bike that should have dominated the market, but didn't. The Triumph Daytona 675 is one of the sharpest, most rewarding machines in its class, yet it still flies under the radar. You can scoop up one today for far less than it's actually worth. The Daytona 675 broke the Japanese inline-four monopoly with something truly unique, a snarling 675cc triple-cylinder engine. It delivered more torque down low, a screaming top end, and a soundtrack that'll send shivers down your spine. With buttery smooth handling in the corners, razor-sharp responsiveness, and real-world road comfort, this bike struck a rare balance between track prowess and everyday usability. So why isn't everyone riding one? For starters, the Daytona went head-to-head with titans like Yamaha's R6, Honda's CBR 600RR, and Kawasaki's ZX6R. The Japanese brands had decades of brand loyalty, massive dealership networks, and MotoGP pedigree. Triumph. They had raw performance but lacked the marketing muscle. The result? The Daytona 675 was overlooked by the masses, even though it could leave many of its rivals in the dust on a twisty back road. Now it's discontinued. No new models, no flashy promos, no showroom buzz. That's bad news for Triumph's sales, but great news for used buyers. Fewer people searching means lower resale prices and hidden gems waiting quietly in classifieds. Yes, early models had a few quirks like electrical gremlins and regulator issues, but most of those were resolved in later years. Owners praise their Daytonas for being dependable, visceral, and shockingly capable. Verdict: the Triumph. Daytona 675 is one of the most underrated sport bikes of the 2000s. Light, fast, exotic, and underpriced, this Brit is a true sleeper that punches way above its weight class. It's a symphony of aggression, a bike that begs to be ridden hard and cornered harder. But not every legend needs to shout. Some bikes earn their stripes in silence, mile after mile, year after year. They don't chase lap times, they chase horizons. Up next is one of those machines. A bike so balanced, so bulletproof, and so underappreciated that it's quietly outlasted trends, outlived its rivals, and still refuses to die. Stick around because this next one, it's not a racer, it's a lifer. If the Daytona caught your eye, you won't believe what's next on the list. Number 1. Honda VFR800. The Honda VFR800, also known as the Interceptor, is the Swiss Army knife of motorcycles, smooth, fast, reliable, and built like a tank. And yet, it's surprisingly affordable on the used market. Why? Because in a world obsessed with specialization, the VFR800 does everything well, but nothing loudly. Let's start with the heart. A glorious 781cc V4 engine. It purrs like a sewing machine, pulls like a freight train, and delivers a soundtrack reminiscent of its legendary sibling, the VFR 750 RC30. But since it's neither an inline-four nor a twin, many riders shy away from its unique layout, intimidated by its perceived complexity. At launch, the VFR was cutting edge. Today some might call it dated, but to those in the know, its clean lines and analog charm are timeless. Sure, it's heavier than a pure sport bike and not as plush as a Goldwing. But once you're rolling, it handles with confidence, planted stable, and deceptively nimble. And here's the kicker, it was in production for over 2 decades. That kind of longevity means used models are everywhere and they often sell for a fraction of their real value. High-mileage examples can be found under $2,500, while clean, well-maintained units rarely exceed $4,400. It's not a hype machine. No wild YouTube stunts, no collector buzz, just a bulletproof motorcycle that can tour across countries, carve up canyon roads, or get you to work day after day without breaking a sweat. Yes, valve jobs can be expensive. And yes, it averages around 38 miles per gallon. But for a bike this capable and reliable, those are small trade-offs. Bottom line, the VFR800 is one of the best-kept secrets in motorcycling. If you want a bike that quietly outperforms expectations and laughs in the face of depreciation, this is your ride. Still got fuel in the tank? Good, because we've got more underrated rides coming your way. These are the hidden gem motorcycles that are stupidly underrated. Did we miss a bike that deserves to be on this list? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more motorcycle content, and as always, ride safe. See you in the next one.